Dubbed by the surf crowd as the Malibu of the Midwest, Sheboygan is a freshwater haven, an outdoor lover's playground, and a fisherman's sunrise glory. Join us for a mancation, famcation, staycation, relaxation-cation, or a pampering girls getaway. We've got plenty of spas and a great wine selection too.
Rising from the depths of Lake Michigan, the creature shook its massive head and looked north on Route 42. Slowly, it pulled its massive body from the waters and began trundling down the superhighway. The 18-wheelers it ate provided the steel needed to maintain its strength. Panicked reports from motorists and residents came pouring into police, army, and Air Force stations and bases. But the reports were too incredible. Only when Manitowoc vanished into the creature's insatiable, cavernous maw were the reports believed. And it was headed for Sheboygan. Trembling with apprehension, Milwaukee and Chicago lay beyond.
Okay, this week's game is The Creature That Ate Sheboygan. It was designed by Greg Kostakayan, and it was published in 1979 by SPI Games. The artwork was Red Simonson and Charles Vess. It's basically a supergiant monster showdown. 2 players, 1 player plays as the monster, and 1 player plays as the human. The monster's goal is to smash up the city, and the human's goal is to destroy the monster. Each player is allocated a certain number of initial strength points to purchase either human units or strengths for their monster. So the monster has initial strength points, and those are used to buy attributes. There's 4 different attributes a monster has: an attack strength, a defense strength, a building destruction strength, and a movement allowance. Attack strength is, of course, used to determine the power of the monster in attacking other units. Defense strength is the points that a monster uses when they're defending from human units. Building destruction strength is used when you're trying to destroy a building as a monster. A movement allowance is the number of squares that a monster can move. And then the special abilities for each monster. These are purchased, and each certain type of special ability has a cost that has to be used to purchase them. And at least 1/4 of the monster's initial strength points must be spent on special abilities. Also note that with defense strength, the monster player can never allocate more than 15 points to the monster's defense strength. The human player chooses which units he will control by expending initial strength points. The human player can buy units based on their combat strength, and for instance, a Sherman tank with a combat strength of 6 would cost 6 units to buy. Artillery would cost 5. Helicopters would cost 1. Infantry would cost 3 each. Police would cost 1 each. Now, also note that firemen and fireboat and populace units are essentially free. The human player does not need to purchase firemen or fireboat units. These units automatically appear if a monster chooses a flame breathing as a special ability. Placement. Now, I play a little different than the initial placement suggested by the game. What I do is I put the monster on the north side of the map, and I put the human units on the south side of the map. And what the monster will do is then be able to move south, and the human units will have to move through the city north to attack the monster. This makes it interesting because as buildings are knocked down, human civilian units will be moving to the south and the east, and they will be getting in the way of the military units that are trying to attack the monster, which creates a little more chaos and makes it a little more fun. Each turn is broken up into 5 segments. There's a monster movement phase, where the monster is able to move to the limit of their movement allowance. And also 3 times during that movement, the monster may pause to stomp a building. And destruction attempts are efforts to turn those buildings into rubble. There's also a monster combat phase where the monster can resolve all attacks that they make against human units. The human player then gets to go, and they may move up to the number that their movement is. They can then resolve all attacks that they have against the monster. And finally, there's a fire phase where we determine whether fires are put out, whether they blow around, or whether they destroy buildings. Movement is always from one box to an adjacent box, and in most cases, monsters can't move across these building boxes unless they've been reduced to rubble. Two boxes are considered adjacent only if there's a dividing line between them, and you can't move through a diagonal. That's not allowed, but in a lot of cases there's a little bit of an overlap that lets you go through. There is a terrain effects chart, and generally through streets it's only cost one movement point to move, but to move through rubble and things like that cost a little more. Helicopter units can move on any box in the map. They can fly over everything. And only helicopters, fireboats, and monsters may enter the river hexes. In fact, fireboats can only enter river hexes. They can't move on land, obviously. For movement purposes, bridges are adjacent to the river box, and they run over, plus in the street boxes on either side of the bridge. Tunnels are adjacent only to the street boxes on either end of the tunnel. All units that are being attacked generally have to have a line of sight from the attacking unit to the defending unit. And I say that the line of sight on tunnels only goes from one end of the tunnel into the tunnel, and you can't look through a whole tunnel. If a bridge is destroyed, only infantry units may subsequently enter that box, and they can actually ford a river. If a unit begins its movement phase adjacent to a box that it could normally not enter due to insufficient movement points, it may enter that box by expending all of its movement points. In other words, a human unit may always enter an adjacent box, unless that contains an impossible terrain for that unit, or unless the move would violate the stacking limits. So I run stacking a little bit differently than is suggested in the rules. I only allow 2 military units to stack on top of each other, and monsters can obviously not stack on top of anything else. I do not let populous units stack with military units. The only units they can stack with are police units. Now, generally, I let a populous unit move only 1 square at a time, but if they're in a police car, the police can escort them and they can go further. So that's what police are useful for, is moving populace out of your way. So stacking units apply at all times, and in other words, you can't move through another unit. Now, one exception to this also is firemen and helicopters obviously are flying over the fray, so they can move through other units. And I allow 6 helicopters to stack into 1 box at a time. Firemen are free to move through any unit that they want. Human units can never enter or move through a box containing a monster, except for helicopters. And generally, a monster can't move through a hex or box that contains a human unit. Now, again, I'm going to say there's one exception to that. Flying monsters are a little different. Flying monsters can act like helicopters and fly over buildings, fly over human units and such. Now, if a monster on the ground wants to enter or pass through a human unit, they can do this by what's called an overrun. Basically, what they do is they attack that unit as they're moving through, and the odds have to be at least 6 to 1. So this is really for populous units that they're going to do this to. And in doing so, they automatically destroy that unit, and then they can keep moving. Now, that also expends the monster's combat phase, so they can't combat again that round. They can, however, smash or fire up buildings. As many as 3 times during a monster's movement phase, the monster can stop and attempt to destroy adjacent buildings or bridges. They cease their movement, they roll the dice on the building destruction table if they're trying to stomp on it, and they see if that building is destroyed. They can then make another destruction attempt, or they can continue to move. If they have fire breathing, they can go ahead and light that building on fire and continue to move. Generally, they have a total number of 3 chances to damage buildings during their turn, so they can't do 3 fires and 3 destructions in the same turn. So let's say we have a low building. A low building has a destruction strength of 2, and let's say the monster that's stomping on it has a destruction strength of 4. So the odds of destruction are 2 to 1. We roll 1 6-sided dice, and if we get a 1, 2, or 3, nothing happens. If we get a 4, 5, or 6, however, the monster is able to knock the building down. Anytime a building catches on fire or is knocked down, I put a populous unit somewhere adjacent to that building, and the populace can then begin to flee from that burning or knocked down building. The populous units will always flee to either the south or the east. Generally, they'll go south first, and if there's no way they can continue to go south, they will move east. The purpose of this is so that they can block military units that are trying to get towards the monster. If a building is destroyed, it's reduced to rubble, and at that point, a monster can move through the rubble. Rubble also doesn't block lines of sight, so if somebody's trying to shoot or fire across at another object, then they can do that. If units are on a bridge box when it's destroyed, they are also destroyed. So if a populous unit is moving and the only places that they can move into are either a monster space or a space occupied by a military unit, then that populous unit is eliminated. And civilians always move before any other military or police or fire units move. Let's talk about combat. Units can attack enemy units from adjacent boxes, and if they are ranged, they can attack from any number of boxes up to their range. In other words, a tank that has a range of 2 could attack a monster that was 2 boxes away. However, they have to be able to trace a clear line of sight to the monster. Units such as firemen can never attack, they can only defend, and those are the ones that have the parentheses combat strength. If the line of sight passes through a building, it's considered blocked, and the unit cannot attack. Only high and low units block lines of sight. Obviously, helicopters have a line of sight on anything down below them. Now you should note that the boxes which touch only in a corner point are not considered adjacent. On any attack, the human player can total up the combat strengths of all attacking units into a single total and conduct one massive attack, or they may resolve the attacks of each unit separately, or they can do a mixture of the two. In other words, they're free to split attacks up however they like. However, each attack is still resolved individually, and monsters lend their full defense strength to each attack. When monsters attack, they can choose to attack all units around them, or they can choose to attack an individual unit. When they apply the results of combat, they can apply it however they like. Now, monsters may only attack units in adjacent boxes unless they have a special ability which allows them to make a ranged attack. The monster, unlike human units, also has a separate attack and defense strength. That's worth noting, that human units use their attack strength as their defense strength. Now, if a monster is forced to retreat after an attack, no further attacks can be made during that phase. To resolve an attack, you go to the attack combat resolution table, and you determine the combat odds. You always round down in favor of the defender. So let's say the combat strength of the humans is 6. The defense strength of the monster is 5. We would say that is a 1-to-1 ratio. It's a little higher than 1-to-1, but we're rounding down. We then roll a dice and cross-index it, and let's just say we got a 3. Results always come out to have a slash. There's a number, a slash, and another number. The results to the left of the slash, or at the beginning, are the effects that it has on the attacker, either doing damage or knocking them back. And those that are right of the slash are the effects on the defender. All attacks at a ratio greater than 5-to-1 are resolved as a 5-to-1. And anything lower than a 1-to-5 odds are prohibited. Now you can see that there's a number, and if the number's at the beginning, that means that's the number of strength points or units that are destroyed. So if we had a, let's say a 1-to-1 with a 3, let's say the military is attacking the monster, the military is going to take 1 point. The monster would take nothing because there's a dash there. So if there was a 1R, that would mean that the unit or the monster would take 1 point of damage and would retreat 1 box. It should be noted that in a non-adjacent attack, any results that would apply to the attacker are not counted. So because you're not standing right next to the defender. So if you're not next to the, if you're not adjacent to the defender and you're forced to take some damage, then those are discounted. Human units can never retreat into a monster unit. If a human unit is forced to retreat and there are other human units behind it, or there's a monster unit that it's forced into the box of, that unit is destroyed. If a monster unit has no place to retreat, it takes a point of damage and also remains in place. Helicopter units have a stacking limit of 6, and they may move through boxes containing monsters. However, they cannot end their movement in a box that has a monster in it. If they move through a monster's box, the monster gets a single roll of 6, and if he rolls a 6, then the helicopter has been grabbed and eaten. The monster can attack helicopters that are in adjacent boxes. Infantry units act as normal military units. However, during a human combat phase, an infantry unit next to a monster may make a suicide assault. This means that the infantry unit's combat strength is doubled for that combat phase, but the unit is destroyed at the end of the attack, regardless of whatever the combat result is. Okay, let's talk about putting things on fire. If the monster has a Breathe Flames special ability, it can start fires. It can do this up to 3 times in a movement phase. It does have to be adjacent to the building or park box or whatever it is he's trying to light on fire. And most things dealing with fire are handled during the fire phase of the turn. So to start a fire in a box, you roll a dice, and if it's a 4, 5, or 6, a fire started in that box, and you place a flame marker on it. You place the flame marker with the one side facing downwards, and then during each subsequent fire phase, you turn that marker 90 degrees. So in phase 2, the 2 side faces down, 3, the 3 side faces down, and finally on side 4, the building falls, turns into rubble, and the fire goes out. Firemen can put out a fire by simply entering and ending their turn on a burning building. At that point, the flames marker is removed and a rubble marker is placed on the box. And that building may never catch on fire again. However, the monster does gain victory points for that. At the beginning of every fire phase, the wind direction is determined, and that's done by a roll. And if it's a 1, 2, 3, or 4, it's considered to be blowing in the direction indicated. If it's a 5 or 6, that means the air is calm and still. Now, during the fire phase, a die is rolled for the building on fire and the adjacent box. If a 6 is rolled for a given box, then that fire is considered to spread to that box, and a flame marker is placed there. Now, if the wind is pushing the fire in a certain direction, then the affected building would catch on fire on a 5 or 6. If there's a street box intervening between a box on fire and another box, and the wind's blowing from the box on fire to the box across the street will catch on fire on a roll of 6. Not 5 or 6, but just 6. Now, I don't look at the number of buildings affecting the chances of adjacent buildings catch on fire. I simply look and do a fire check for each building and each adjacent box. So one adjacent box could have 3 different fires affecting it, say, in a specific turn. So it'd be 3 different die rolls. Fireboats can put out fires on buildings that are burning in adjacent squares to the river. Now, anytime a building catches on fire, then I assume that the people run out of the building and they begin to move to the south or east. So that lets civilians start to move out. And it's up to the human player to determine which side of the building that's burning that the people can come out of. They can even come out into rubble, but they can't come out into another building. Victory conditions. Now, the game ends when the monster dies, or when all human units have been eliminated, or when the monster's victory level is exceeded. For the monster player, they get a victory point for each populous unit eliminated. The humans get a victory point, human units that they move off the south side of the map during play. They don't get any points for human civilians that may still be moving to the south after the monster's died. The monster also gets 3 victory points for each destroyed low building. They get 5 for each destroyed high building. They get 5 for destroying a bridge. And they get the number of strength points of any units that they destroy. Okay, that's about it. Let's go through an example of play. We're setting up this game by making Truckosaurus, reference to The Simpsons. And in this advanced scenario B, the humans will start with an initial 60 strength points, while the monsters will start with 40 strength points, and victory points will be 55. So here's a quick character sheet for Truckosaurus. We started with the 40 strength points, and I divided them up. I gave him an attack of 6, a defense of 6, a building destruction strength of 1. I just did that so I could use it as kind of a discretionary point. A movement allowance of 3. And special abilities, I gave him fire breathing, which cost 18 points, and lightning throw, which cost 6 points. So he's kind of Godzilla-like. I picked out a unit that looked like him roughly and set the points, and you can see them here, each of those in each corner. For the human side, I've got a whole range of units down here that I placed on the bottom. I've got police cars, I've got infantry, I've got tanks, and buried down here I also have a artillery unit that'll move in slowly, and then finally got some helicopters. So this will kind of give us a rough view of everything that's available. Okay, and I put these on, they're going to come in on the south side of the map. Truckosaurus is coming in on the north side. So let's set this up. Truckosaurus gets to go first, and I'm going to use that fire breathing ability. And I get to move 3 hexes and use the fire breathing, and on a 4, 5, or 6, I catch the building on fire. So Truckosaurus is going to go with this first building here. He gets a 2, so he doesn't. He'll try again and gets a 3 and misses, and I'll try a 4. Truckosaurus had no luck that round. Still got some movement to do, so 1, 2, 3. Okay, then I can start bringing on the human units. So 1, 2, 3. Because of stacking limits, I'm kind of stuck here. And these guys will still be off. They're technically off the map. Doesn't make a huge difference. These police cars will go 1, 2, 3, 3, and 3. And then the helicopters get to go 7. So they're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And they'll go harass poor Truckosaurus here. Okay, no fire phase because there's no fires, but Truckosaurus is going to again try to go. I think we'll start with trying to burn some buildings down. And this is a good block because it's got plenty of buildings to burn down, so plenty of potential points. I might try to burn down something from every block here. So we try again, 3 misses. We'll try again on that block here. 2 misses. And Truckosaurus is going to try it again. 3. Oh man, Truckosaurus is having no luck. Don't think I'll move Truckosaurus at this point. What the hell. Okay. Then the human gets to go. 1, 2. He can actually slip through right there. 3. And this is a tank. I forgot 4, 5. 2, 3. This tank can go 1, 2, 3, but he can't, because of stacking limitations, can't go any further. And these guys are off the map. Okay, he's going to be in range, so the human can actually attack with those helicopters. Oh, they can only go 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so the police have moved. Everybody's moved here. Nothing's on fire. This is 1, 2. Actually, he's out of range, you can see, because diagonals don't count. So the helicopters are not in range. So that's the end of the turn. Okay, go to Truckosaurus. And we're going to try to get both of these blocks on fire here. Nope. Try again. Nope. Try again. Nope. Okay. I'm going to move away from these guys. Don't have a stomp ability. Well, we could try the stomp, but now we've already used our three shots, so. Actually, yeah, let's just leave him here. Okay. Humans go. 3. Okay, so he's now going to be in range of that tank. 3. And these guys, gotta separate these guys out. They're sticking together here. Okay, these police cars will come in. 2, 3. And the helicopters are going to try to get adjacent. So they're going to attack. Okay, so now it's time for the humans to attack. They got 6 and 6. So they've got 12 against Trichosaurus's 6 points of defense. Let's go ahead and see what we get. We're going to roll it. A 3. 2 to 1 odds. 1, 2, 3. So each side takes 1 unit of damage. For Trichosaurus, I'm going to decrease his movement. We'll do it, decrease his movement, and we're going to take off a helicopter at this time. The tank won't come off because he's more than 2 units, so there's no damage from that. But the helicopters are adjacent, so I think that's everybody's move. No fires. Trichosaurus is going to go. He's going to slip in here and try to catch a fire. Hey, there, we've got a fire. So we're going to put a fire marker down. We'll put it there. Okay, Trichosaurus is going to try to move again and put another fire down. 3, misses. And let's try another fire. 3, misses again. Okay. Actually, we could do those fires and then move and attack. We'll get that tank. So 6 to 6 is 1 to 1 odds. Trichosaurus is going to try at 1 to 1 odds. And we roll a 5. So the defenders take 1. That's actually pretty good for Trichosaurus because they lose 1 unit, which is a tank. So that's a big unit to use. Okay, and that's it for that round. So the one thing we did forget here was to put a civilian marker or unit down. So when that So the one thing we forgot to do here was put a populace marker down when the building caught on fire. We'll put one here. I think that's the most logical place to put it because it will allow the civilians to move off to the south and the east during the civilian turn. And I think that's it. The monsters moved. Everybody's moved here, so I think we're good. They did that attack on the tank. So we'll move on to the human turn. Now, since this is the human turn, we will move our civilian first, and they can move south or east. They're going to have to move to the east because there's a monster there. Then we can move our units. 1, 2. So the helicopters are in range to do that. Oh, we've also got our firefighters. We get 3 of them. And firemen. 1, 2, 3. And we can place them. Now, I'm going to go ahead and place them right here. And then I'm going to place them a little bit further out so they can move in. I want to place them here, here, and here. Okay. We've moved them. This firefighter's moved, and let's see. The tanks are going to move into place. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. We are going to try to lure this guy in. Okay. I think everybody in the vicinity's moved. We're going to try to box them in. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 3 and 3. Let's see. Okay, we've gone. The fire can be put out by the firefighter, so we will just delete that. Everybody's moved, so the fire phase is done. Oh, we forgot to attack. We can attack 1, 2, so we got 6 1-to-1 odds. Let's go ahead and do that from the helicopters. And we rolled a 1, so 1-to-1. The attacker retreats 1, so all those helicopters are going to move. Oh, they don't have to move because they are attacking from the distance, so we're good. Okay, I think that's it. I think everybody's moved. We got our fire phase. The monster's going to go, and he's going to try to do this. He's going to attack here and do an overrun, so that's 6-to-1 odds. That's an automatic overrun. He munches those guys. He can't attack anymore, but he can put some fires out, or start some fires. Let's see if we can do it. 1, 2, 3. Okay, there, he got 1 started. He starts a fire right here. And that leaves the monster's done an attack. They've done a move. Now we can move 2 anyway, so I guess that's it. Okay, we'll move the... Oh, we got a civilian. Okay, can't forget the civilian here. That's just clone 1. And we're going to put him right here. Yeah, we'll try to move him there. This is going to create some problems, though, because... We're going to have to move because the civilian's going to get in the way no matter where we go. We could move here. And let's do that. Okay, then we're going to move them 1. Firefighter's going to move 1, 2, 3. Helicopters are going to stay where they're at. 1, 2, 3, 2, and we're going to go... 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Police car 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. 3. 2, 3. A little bit of space. Keep rid of those firefighters there. Okay, so attacking the Trichosaurus is going to be 3, 6, 9, 12, 17 to 6. So 2-to-1 odds. 2-to-1, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Monster takes 1. What are we going to use? I'm going to take away that destruction. Okay, so the monster just uses the destruction. The fire is put out. And we're just going to put that over to the side because we're going to have another fire here pretty quick. Okay, now it is the monster's turn, and he's going to attack right over here. 6-to-1 odds against the firefighter because those guys are going to put a damper on things. Or 5-to-1 odds. It's a 5, so 3 is the result. You lose 3 units, so we will just knock that guy out. Okay, now the monster is going to try to start some fires. 1 is a 2, 3, and 6. So there's 1 fire. We're going to use our fire here. Okay. And another civilian gets to go running off. We will put our civilian down here. Okay. Now the civilian is stuck and can't move. So because the civilian, I guess they're going to move him here. They can move somewhere. So, and this civilian will go here. Okay. 2, 3. We move a fireman here. Excuse me. Move a policeman over here. We've got a jam here. The air's kind of dry down here. 1, 2, 3. We will say he picks up the civilian and moves him there. Okay. So we fight the monster. We've got 3. So we've got 2 to 1 odds. 2 to 1, 6. Oh, that's not good. 2 points on the monster. So the monster takes 2. What am I going to do? I think I'll take increased defense, and I'll decrease the attack. Yeah. So now it's 5 and 5. The monster's going to have a hard time this time. Okay, the fire goes to, the civilians have gone. The humans have gone. The fire, it's fire phase. So we're going to rotate this clockwise. So we're now at 2. And we're going to see if, oh, we forgot to do a win. We've not been doing that. Okay, no win. So we're going to see if anything catches around the building. 1 in 6 chance of blowing into a surrounding one. And nope, nothing there. 6 if it was crossing the street. There's nothing to blow it across the street, so I guess we're good there. It's Truckosaurus's move. He will try to start this building on fire. He successfully does that. So we have another fire going here. He will then try to stomp at 2 to 3 odds. So 2 to 1 odd, 1 to 2 odds, 1 to 2, 5. 1 and retreat for the defender. That's actually not too bad. So there, and he does lose a unit. So Truckosaurus has done pretty well there. Okay, now we can go 1, 2, 3. Oh, that's going to be bad, but that's okay. Oh, and we got to get another piece of citizenry here. Down. Okay, they are going to attack. $25 to 1, 5 to 1 odds, 3. 5 to 1 at 3 is 2 that they lose, so essentially it's over here. Truckosaurus falls over in defeat because he will only have 1 defense point left. He can't attack, he can't do anything else, so it's pretty much over for Truckosaurus. This really wasn't that great of a version of this game. I've had a lot more happen during it, but anyway, it's still a pretty fun game. The nice thing about it is that you can adapt it and house rule it in such a way that you can make the game really interesting. You could, for instance, add 2 monsters and have them battle it out throughout the city. Have 1 protecting the city, 1 not. I guess we need to look at victory points here. Let's do that real quick. Truckosaurus got 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, 15. And then we're going to subtract these 2, 14, 13, 5, 10, 15, so that's 28. And this building here we consider destroyed as 31. So 31 points wasn't even near enough for the amount that we were needing. Yeah, we needed 55, so we didn't make it. But anyway, like I say, it's a good game for house ruling. I think it's kind of fun, so I gave it a thumbs up. This game, it's pretty good. Anyway, that's all I got this week. Getting ready for Halloween here, so hopefully I'll have a video out next week to watch. If not, I've been kind of busy lately, so thanks a lot for watching, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.